So, a little bit about EPISD. There are currently 58 elementary schools, 15 middle schools, 10 traditional high schools. The makeup of EPISD consists of 83% Hispanic, 10% white, 4% Black or African American, and then 3% others. So you can see obviously here that the majority of the students here are Hispanic. When you look at our subpopulations, you can see that 70% of our students here are economically disadvantaged, where our 10% are special need kids, and 27% rather, are our English language learners. So that's the makeup. And as you can see here, EPISD is really diverse. And so when we look at test scores and just the makeup of the school, we can see that we're going to encounter some challenges with our subpops when you're looking at poverty and trying to get that coherence that we need. So the vision of EPISD is El Paso Independent School District will be a premier educational institution, source of pride and innovation, and the cornerstone of emerging economic opportunities, producing a 21st century workforce. So as you notice, I did highlight the word pride because I think that's something that the district is really trying to focus on, especially with what had happened in the past with the past administration. And when you talk to different employees, when the whole scandal occurred, it was something that you really didn't even want to bring up. You didn't want to talk about where you worked because if you mentioned, oh, I work for EPISD, they'd be like, oh, you're part of the scandal. Were you part of it? What did you do? And so it was a bit of a kind of a blow to our pride. And I think this is where now this new admin is trying to build that pride and allowing us to say, you know what, we are proud to work here and we are doing good things. So this is why I highlighted that word pride. And I think it goes in line with what we're looking at here as far as the culture and building that coherence among all the schools in the district. So EPISD has a new strategic plan. It's called EPISD 2020. And so they have it here. I like it because they acknowledge that it's going to take a long time. It's not going to happen overnight. So the goals are to get some of these done by 2020. And it's not all of them, but it's a good chunk of them. But I think I really appreciate, and it kind of goes along with all the readings that we've done, saying that it doesn't happen overnight, that it does take time, that you have to look at the plan, go back and revise as needed. And so one of the main components of the EPISD 2020 plan is number one, active learning, uh, building great community schools, and building community partnerships. And I think that's something, again, because of what had happened in the past, we're trying to build that trust. We're trying to build that partnership where we're saying, let's work together. These are our schools. And then the last, certainly not least, rather, it's lead with character and ethics. And I think that's something that's, again, because of what had happened, this is trying to being instilled now so that we realize, you know what, we are going to lead with character. We are going to lead with ethics. So I interviewed a couple of people. The first person I interviewed, her name is Amy Boatwright. She's the professional development specialist. She was actually my science teacher back in high school at Bassett Middle School. And so I asked her if she could participate, and she was more than willing to do so, even though she was actually kind of sick. So the first question I asked her was, so how, given what had happened in the past, how do we build a positive, coherent culture? And right away she answered, we have to be transparent. And I think, again, align with all our readings. You have to let everybody know what's going on. You have to let them know the goals. What do we want to do? How do we want to get there? The second thing she said was, we got to be positive about the change. Be positive, and be encouraged. And she goes, even those kind of negative nillies, you got to get those guys on board and stuff. Don't let them infect everybody else. So staying positive was one of her key points. Another thing that they're trying to do is start new initiatives. She really stressed PBIS, which is the Positive Interventions Behavioral Supports. And this is really just focusing on building social and emotional learning, building on that, not being punitive, helping out with mentorship, helping them out with showing them, okay, not don't do that. This is why we have this rule in place. It's to help you. So building that rapport, building those relationships. And she stressed that that's one of the things the district is really trying to move forward with. And then she also said active learning. And we put ganas there in parentheses because that's what she goes. She says they need ganas. They need to want to do this. And I think if we can motivate people and get them to see that active learning is actually quite amazing, then people would want it. And I think she said that's one of the challenges is building that wanting to do it. But she says it's slowly getting there. As we talked about data, she mentioned Ren 360. Last year it was called Renaissance Star 360, and so it's a new initiative, and where you can get data for math and reading, and you do it 3 times in the year: the beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of year. And it provides data for the teachers, for the principals, and it allows them to see how are they doing, are they advancing, are we meeting our goals, what interventions do we need to do. And this is something also that comes directly from the board. Another thing that Amy was talking about was we have formative assessments and really trying to utilize these formative assessments and finding the meat out of them because we can get a lot of data. Data is everywhere and a lot of numbers and it can become overwhelming. But if we know how to use it and get into the meat of it where it can really be helpful, this is where Amy said it becomes a huge benefit for not only the district, but also the teacher and the school. Also, with the data, you can also, as I mentioned a little bit ago, you can also start creating your RTIs, your response to interventions. Is your student where they need to be? And if they're not, that's okay. Let's look at the data. What do you need to do to get to where you need to be? And if you are already high enough, how can we make you even better? How can we strengthen you? And so she was saying if we utilize this data, we're really not only helping ourselves, but we're also helping the school and the district. Now, I did ask her about the changes that she's noticed throughout the district. She said, well, right away she mentioned the bond, and she goes, that was really just a big thing, and it just didn't happen just because it took a lot of effort from district employees and teachers, really encouraging the community to get this passed. So she did notice that. She goes, that says a lot about us, and it says a lot about the community that they're starting to trust us now. However, she did say that there hasn't been a huge increase in professional development, that people aren't seeking her out and her department out still, where she still has to go out and seek the schools. So I think this is something where it's still in the building process. And she did mention it's one of the things is because, teachers are so busy. And so she goes, we're always here. We're always have, things available for them whenever they're ready to have it. They do advertise to new teachers consistently so that they can start building their little toolbox. And one thing the district is trying to do, Amy said, was this initiative called One a Day. So encouraging teachers, whether you've been there 20 years or you've been there this year, is to do something every day for your own growth, whether it's read an article, whether it's read a new strategy to do active learning, to do something to get you to learn a little bit more. And I think, we need to get to the place where you recognize that we can always, always learn. Okay, so my next interview was Susie Bird. She's the board of trustee District 3. And so I wanted to use her because I think she gives us a different perspective because she's not, exactly an employee of us or with EPISD, but she has a lot to say. So I asked her again, considering everything that's happened, how is EPISD building a positive, coherent culture? And immediately she says, it's a long project. It takes a lot of work. It doesn't happen over time, in a day. This takes some time. This takes effort. The second thing she stressed was that we lead with ethics. We need everyday ethical leaders. We have to be tough but fair, not only the top, but that trickles down all the way from the district to the schools to the students. And again, she did mention they revised the district policy. We kind of went over a little bit, the EPISD 2020, and using that to kind of just strengthen where we're at, get everyone on board, creating that team that we are. She did say one of the things that the board has done is to strengthen the internal audit functions and provide them with the resources they need. And that's one of the things we did read is that when you give someone the tool, you have to also provide them with the resources. So even though we had an internal audit function prior to the scandal, they weren't really supported. And so now that's one thing that Susie said, that we support them with the tools, we support them with good people, we support them with people that are going to stand up for what's right. They will not settle for mediocrity, and so I think that's one thing that I really did appreciate when she said that they stand for excellence and they demand it of everyone. And finally, she said that the board and the superintendent are on the same like wavelength. They support each other. They know what they're doing, and she said that also they're very transparent. Um, and again, she said, it's one of those things that doesn't happen overnight and stuff, but it is happening. She gave an example of how the internal audit function works. There was an elementary school where some of the employees there had some concerns. And so through the internal audit, they reported it to the internal auditors. They did their audit, and they came back with some information. They reported that information to the board, and then at that point, the board was able to take action. So I think they're really utilizing this tool now, and I think that employees of EPISD can feel safe in that they're not going to get in trouble if they see something that's not right. And I think that's what Susie wants, for people to be able to feel safe to speak up when needed. Okay. When we talked about data, again, she brought up, just like Amy, she brought up Renaissance 360 and getting that data and utilizing that data. And she was saying, we started it last year. Last year was kind of our learning year. It took some time. People weren't really sure how to use it, what it was for. But through training and through coaching, we're starting to understand how this can really be a valuable tool for us and not just a waste of time. And why are you taking them out of my class or this and that? They really seeing the importance of this data, or at least how it can provide us some really good information. And she did say, with data, that some people are eager to embrace it and some people are not. And I think that goes back to what the reading was saying. They just don't know how to utilize it. They don't know what it all means. And sometimes it can be overwhelming when you're not used to it. And when teachers are trained and coached, then it doesn't seem so intimidating. We need to be able to collect meaningful data, just not numbers for the sake of numbers. So she was saying that when we look at data, and we're looking at it specifically REN 360, it provides quick feedback to the teacher as far as how her students are doing, or his students are doing. And it's not to a gotcha thing, it's to help them. What do we need to do to provide interventions for these kids? For the principal, it provides kind of a thermometer as far as what's the condition of the campus? How are the teachers doing? Are the kids advancing or progressing rather, how they're supposed to? For the board, she says, the data, they're still trying to figure out exactly how to utilize it, how to use it in a meaningful way. And I think they're still in that process. And one thing I really did appreciate what she said was, we work on it, we look at it, and if it doesn't work, we go back and tweak it a little bit. And I think, again, when we look at the readings, it doesn't happen. There's no step by step. There's no guidebook that says first you do this, then you do this. It's you go, you set your plans, you have your goals, and then you kind of reassess. How is it going? And then if you need change, you tweak it. And I think I really appreciate what EPISD is doing here as far as we're going to make this work. It's going to take a little bit of time. Let's all get together. Don't be afraid to speak up. And together we can really build a positive culture and really have good data where we're making data-based decisions for the good of our students. So as we look at these, I think it was a great learning experience. It was great to see that, what Susie and Amy said pretty much aligned with our readings and what had occurred in other districts as far as, them coming from our situation with scandal, but others were from just bad leadership or whatever. And they've come together, stayed on course as far as building a positive culture, and then ended up being a success story. So I think we're on our way. We have great schools here. We have great teachers. And I think we have good leaders. We have good leaders now at the district level. So if they continue along this path, I think EPISD is going to do great things. Thank you.